Welcome back to Replic Quants. This is Michael Merle, and today I've got something very special for you. We're going to talk about how to stay on the right side of the trend in the crypto market. Let's get to it. So, in the inimical words of Martin Zweig, who was a famous technical trader and analyst, the trend is your friend. Well, until it's not, but today's video is going to be about how to stay on the right side of the trend. And, well, it's not easy because I think the crypto market is really a prime example of how we can experience a lot of market volatility. We have a market that makes huge moves. And I would propose that the majority of people who are active in the market, may this be hodlers or traders or just speculators or even altcoin degenerates like me and many others, we have a hard time really often detaching ourselves from a little sphere that we see, the blinders that we're wearing every day. Because we're looking at the market and we're looking at the daily wiggles and we get so absorbed into that. It's easy to get drawn into that. And don't know how much you know about my career. I've been a trader since 1999, became basically, a full-time trader in 2008. And, obviously I didn't start with crypto. I started with stocks and futures and Forex and all that kind of stuff, all that good stuff. And since I had a background in engineering and system development, I used to work in Silicon Valley for many years, actually, in a previous life. Yes, I'm that old. And I learned a lot about technical trading and about systemic trading, quant trading, of course, quantitative trading. And, just algorithmic trading was always something I felt drawn to because I thought that by combining the two, developing systems and also, building into a system, the discipline, the rules, all the requirements necessary for you to succeed in the market. I thought it was always the lowest hanging fruit for me, at least given my skill set. For you, maybe it's much easier to just look at the chart and pick a direction, but that actually seems to be the hardest thing to do. I've seen a lot of statistics. I had conversations with literally thousands of traders over the years, right? I've run my little trading blog for a long time, Evil Speculator, and I started my own firm. And I'm collaborating with other firms as well, of course, I've been very active in the community, and I've seen the trials and tribulations that most retail traders go through. And specifically to that pertains sticking with a trade until the odds really have turned against you. But also being able to plan a trade and stick it through. Have a plan before you go into the trade. And that's very difficult for many people, right? It's very difficult to kind of look at, okay, what am I actually doing? Because a lot of people just kind of go into the market and then they're reactive. And I never really wanted to trade this way because I saw how many people failed doing it this way. Let's face it, we as human beings were really not wired to be traders. Our cognitive instincts are all wired against being a good trader because we respond very negatively and very strongly against losses, in comparison at least with wins, right? And there's all kinds of other cognitive biases, sunk cost effect and recency bias and all these kind of goodies that, our brains are filled at naturally. And most of us are really affected by that. There's only a handful of people who are naturally more resilient, right? And they can overcome that. And those actually usually the people who become really good traders. And it's not usually actually the intellectual ones, the academics. Now it's usually the street smart guys, right? The guys who are just like, they would succeed in anything they do because they just have this knack to kind of assess the odds at a moment's notice and instinctively do the right thing. Maybe also sometimes often go against the grain, right? Anyway, that was really never me. I mean, I'm actually a pretty good trader, I would say. I've done very well trading options, and that is done in a semi-discretionary fashion because I do use a lot of technical indicators and implied volatility and delta ranges and stuff that allows me to pick what kind of trade I want to put on and being more market agnostic, market direction agnostic, all this kind of stuff. But I've never been a guy who just sits there, looks at a chart and says, okay, I'm going to go long here. That's just not my thing, right? So technical trading for me it is, and that's why I build systems. I've been building trading systems for, 15 years now or so. And I've seen many come and go. Some of them crashed and burned because that's what happened. And it was really a learning experience because you realize also that certain edges are not eternal. And my focus, market is opening. Okay. For me in Spain, it's 3:30, and in the United States, it's 9:30, and the market just opened. I'm talking the East Coast, of course. If you're in California, where I used to live, I had to get up at 6:30 in the morning. That was my favorite thing to do. Anyway, coming back to this. So I want to talk about trading the trend, right? The trend is your friend. And like Zweig said, and he basically referred to the fact that you just stick with the trend as long as the trend is on your side. But how do you know? And most people really screw that up, because you see here on this graph here, and forget about this line for now, just look at the gray one, right? And that's basically Bitcoin, right, over the last 4 years. And you see, wow, it's been on the move. We can definitely say that. Recently, we see a lot of chop up here. And there's very few systems actually that survive this kind of stuff. Really, it's really hard to trade through stuff like that. And this is actually not really a trading system, and I'll talk about this in a second. This is actually a trend indicator, a seasonality indicator that tells you which vertical of the crypto market right now is most conducive. Either Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, which we all love to trade because when they move, right? And then, of course, cash. Cash is always a position for me. That's actually an old expression among traders. Cash is a position, which also relates to the fact that, hey, you don't always need to take action. There's times when you just hands off because the getting ain't good, right? It's just nothing. There's nothing to do. You shouldn't be trading during those times. Like times like this, you shouldn't be very active unless you're real good swing traders. For that, this kind of market here is manna from heaven. Why? Because they know how to trade the swings. They have indicators, well, they monitor everything. They're really busy, all day looking at the charts. They know how to do this kind of stuff. So, but most of you guys are not. Let's face it, right? That's probably not you. And if it's you, hey, all the power to you, because it's a rare skill that people who really survive this kind of stuff. And yes, you can make a lot of money trading the swings, right? Being a swing trader, for to say. I, in my old age, I prefer the slow, easy, nickel pinching approach, where I like just a little bit here and there on a constant basis, though, slow and easy. The hare versus the turtle or the tortoise, right? I'm the tortoise, right? A little bit easy, because I know usually the tortoise wins the game. And I've been winning the game for a long time, I must say, because I've done this for a long time for a living, and I'm still here. And many of people that I've seen come and go. So anyway, long story short, and I just want to kind of dump this all on you as kind of a precursor, right? As a kind of set the stage, so to say, for you, because it's important to understand this. There's so much money to be made in the crypto market if you forget about a few things. And one of the things you need to forget about is something I need to show you right now. And I'm going to do this very effectively by actually some of the graphs that I have produced via my backtester here. So what you're looking at right now is a profit graph of Veritas, which is a trend trading system just for Bitcoin. So this is something related, but it's not the same. And this is basically the profit graph over the last 4 years. It's been traded live for a long time, actually, and I've had the signal running since about here, right? Since the big bad bear market of 2022. And it actually did very well in it, and it's kept us in the game even recently. There's a little dip here, but that would to be expected in this huge mess up here. I don't want to talk too much about this right now. This is a great system. I love it. It's resilient as they come. I've had literally thousands of backtests on this, and every single of them is profitable to a certain extent. This is one of my favorite configurations. It's actually not the most profitable, but it's the one that is most conducive, I think, for retail traders sticking with the flow, right? Sticking in the trade. And again, I made over $90,000 over the last 4 years, which is beautiful. Now, let me show you something else, because what's very important to look at is actually, so this is basically the same thing, but this shows you actually the entries. You see a lot of them, but it's over 4 years, so it's actually not that busy. You trade every 2 or 3 weeks or so. There's a positional change, and there's sometimes periods where you're in it for a month or two. So it's a typical trend trading system. And what you see is, right, when you, I don't know if I can size it up a little bit. Let me try here. It's just the preview. Yeah, if I size it up a little bit, you might see that, it doesn't exactly pick the tops or bottoms. It does actually fairly well. I'm not using an EMA or anything like that. That would just get chopped to pieces in a market like this, or SMA or whatever, moving average type. I'm using something called the Kalman filter. It's an algorithm I stole from navigation, and it's used a lot out there. It's a good algorithm to estimate the direction of a vehicle or an airplane or something like that. It's used in GPS, all this kind of stuff. And I converted that actually as a trading system because I thought it would work very well. Again, we're not talking about this today. What I want to show is that, look, you might notice that it doesn't really pick the tops and bottoms exactly, right? It does actually fairly well. I mean, this is probably as good as it's going to ever get, right? And you have to always make a choice. If you want it to be even slower, and I have settings which are even slower, right? It would actually be, thicker, right? They would not be hugging the Bitcoin chart as tightly. Yeah, that's maybe a little bit less tight. It gives you a good idea. And yeah, it's actually quite tight. It really speaks to the Kalman filter, which is absolutely amazing in terms of how it picks the trends. Is it completely resilient? No, of course not. It got a little bit chopped here, but they all do that. But that's the end result, This one made a little bit less money. I like this approach as well, but this configuration was a little bit deep in drawdown. I know probably half of the people would have been shaken out here, so I didn't pick this one. So I like it a little bit tighter. And what I really love about this configuration was that it really set out the entire bear market. Obviously, since you see a graph up here, right, a line up, it's able to go short. A lot of guys cannot go short, they just stay in cash. So the learning experience though here is that you want to forget about picking tops and bottoms because you never will. This is a super tight configuration, you can barely see it. So again, this is the seasonality indicator. And what's the difference? Well, this one doesn't go short. While it does, it just tells you whether or not you should be right now. It's always in the market if you consider cash a position, right? Which I do actually. It's either in Bitcoin, long, or Ethereum, long, or altcoins, long, or long cash. Yeah. Okay, 3 long and 1 cash, if you will, if you're pedantic about it. But this is the end result. And on the left side, I don't have a bubble here. I should have probably plotted that as well, my bad. But you can see maybe on the left side, this one at the peak was over $40,000 over the last 4 years. This one I like actually a bit better, but it's had a little bit of a drawdown recently. And I know a lot of people would have been shaken out. It was over 40K, now it's at like 34K or so. And I love this one. It's actually done very well. Lately it got hit a little bit. But again, I don't expect the system to be resilient to this, actually. I don't want to build a system or even just a trend signal to survive something like this completely unscathed. I mean, you might be lucky, but don't expect this like this. Okay, this looks really good, right? A little bit busy. I like it though. This is good. Over 4 years, it's probably just enough signal to keep people happy. But yeah, it got drawn down here as well. So this looks much better. It made a little bit less money, but I think psychologically it's easier to trade for most people. You stick with it, right? There's always the stick with it factor, right? What's the stick with it factor? SWIF, right? What's the SWIF? Doesn't really exactly roll off the tongue, but you get the idea. So I like this because psychologically, if you just look at this, right? Hey, you made like $18,000 through this. That's not bad if you start at 1,000, okay? Yeah, right, not bad. And it's doing well. And by the way, I just want to add something else to this. The seasonality signal, it accounts for slippage. Every time you swap between Ethereum and Bitcoin, it actually considers 1% slippage. And actually in altcoin mode, it considers 10% slippage. Because I know that people will be swapping coins a lot, right, within a month or two. So I'm accounting for that. So this is really as close to real as I can get it. This is also, it's not forward looking, meaning that when you have let's say my Kalman switch over, well, I'm not really trading that switch over until the next day. That's very important. You don't have forward buys, things like that. I mean, as a system developer, you have to think of these things because otherwise when you start trading it in reality, you say, oops, right? My projections were completely wrong. And they can actually, something like this can completely kill a system. I've seen it, right? Where you get this nice graph upward. And then it gets completely stomped in the real market because, well, trading costs kick in, slippage might be high. And maybe you made a mistake and you were assuming a trade happens on the date where the signal was actually just rolling over, right? So you actually wouldn't know until the next day, when the signal has settled. So things like that you have to consider. And for instance, this looks really good. It made a little bit less money, but I think psychologically, this is a good system to trade, right? Again, I say a system. It's really not a trading system per se. It just tells you what to be in. And I think that's beautiful because I've seen too many people get chewed up, trying to pick tops and bottoms over and over and over again. I've been around the block a few times. I wasn't born yesterday, and I've had so many conversations with traders. I've been running a blog. You hear a lot of sob stories of people who get wiped out, and it's just, I hate to read these things, and I hate to hear about these things. And I really try to help, and it's so difficult trying to talk sense into people often because they just do what they want to do, and then their account gets wiped out within the first year, and it's really sad. And that happens actually over 90% of the cases. So I don't want this to happen to you, right? You're watching this right now, hopefully still watching this right now. And what I want to convey, what I want to send you away with, what I want you to take away today is that there's a better way, which is trust the signal because this is a signal that has proven itself for the last 4 years. It's been running live for a long time. I've been throwing the book at this signal, okay? I've been backtesting literally thousands of configurations. I could show you the spreadsheet right here. So this is the configurations I've been running, all different kinds of settings, and I'm recording basically number of trades, Sortino ratio, Kalman ratio, max drawdown, cumulative return, all this kind of stuff. And all across the board, it is profitable. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful system. It's resilient. It's a good signal. And if you're a subscriber, you already have access to it. You should have access to it. If not, send me an email and I'll show you how. And it'll keep you on the right side of the trade. And that's really all you want. And, you always have the north of the market. That's what you need to kind of stay in the game and kind of get an idea what the market is heading. And otherwise, you're just kind of spitballing it. And that usually doesn't end very well. So this shows you where north is. North is being up, right? And it tells you the right side of the market. Stay on the right side of the trend. All right, that's pretty much it. See you next time. Cheers.